So although he's fit and well, it still was a challenge getting the support we needed. But we were very lucky in terms of social services where she lives were excellent. And we had a brilliant social worker who really helped us navigate this whole new world that you get plunged into with psychiatrists and doctors and hospitals and care homes. And so we were very lucky with the support that we got from social services, but I know that's not the same everywhere. The next challenge was finding the right care. And this was really difficult because what happened to my mum was she fell over and broke her arm and went into hospital, and her dementia was really deteriorating at this time. And actually that was it. We couldn't then take her back home. So then she went into a home. And the first 2 homes she went into, I will say I wasn't happy with at all. And it took us a long time to get the right care. And also it's expensive, you know, it's not cheap. So that was, we're lucky that we can sort of afford that, but I know that's not with everyone. And then I think the last challenge, and this links to the work that we're doing, is the fact that I think often when people are in a care home and they've got dementia, people sort of think that's it, you know, they're just going to go there. And so I think the importance of people being able to do activities. So as I said, my mum was always very sociable. She liked being around people. She liked going out. She liked doing things. And I think she'd be horrified if she knew that she was sort of sat in a chair every day in a care home. So I think having activities and things that people can do, and I think some of the work that we're going to showcase today is excellent. Unfortunately, a lot of that sort of isn't available to where my mum is, so I think there's a real need for more of those sort of types of activities. And then the final challenge is COVID, you know, so obviously we haven't been able to see my mum since February because the home shut down very early. Thankfully nobody in the home has died, but they've been extremely strict, so we've not been able to see her at all. So that's just some insights, I suppose, into the challenges of living with someone with dementia, which I think for me was one of the reasons why I got involved in the research. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Jane, for sharing that. And sorry, Jane is from Edinburgh Napier University. I think it's really important to set that up at the beginning, that although we will be talking about research, that there's real people who are affected there. So that was a really important way to start this discussion. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's much appreciated. We are next going to head over to Hannah Stewart, who is a research associate with Edinburgh Napier University, who is going to be telling us a little bit more about the kind of research and academic side of it. So I will pass you goodwill out again, and I will pass you over to Hannah Stewart.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Sian. I'm going to play my presentation here as well. So a little background about me. I am a graduate as well as a research associate with Edinburgh Napier University. And I have worked alongside both Jane, Gary Kerr, a big team, and some of the other panelists as well. So without further ado, what you can see in this first photo, this is a photo that's very dear to my heart because this was my grandmother. I was born in the States, but I moved to Canada when I was 15, where my mom and all of her family is from, so that my gran could move in with us after she had been diagnosed with dementia. So this was how she always was, and that was my cousin there as well. So this is for them. So in terms of our research, we were looking at these 2 titles. Our research examined how the co-creation of festivals and events specifically produced for people with dementia, by people with dementia, enable these individuals to live well and, most importantly, improve their quality of life after a diagnosis. We also explored how accessibility within visitor attractions and cultural venues within the UK and Ireland help people live well after their diagnosis. Thing to really remember, it's all about community. Our research involved conversations with over 15 different festival organizers and event managers, so as to understand the value of festivals and events in the context of dementia care. Initially, we'd intended to include people living with dementia and their carers in the research, but obviously with the onset of a global pandemic, it became a little bit more challenging to facilitate that aspect. So this has already been highlighted a little bit by that wonderfully touching story by Jane. So some key dementia facts here for you. There are 850,000 people living with dementia in the UK. That number is expected to grow to over 2 million by 2050. And in fact, there was research that was conducted in 2015 that estimated 1 in every 3 people born in this country will develop dementia in their lifetime. It's quite a sobering thought. So we can't continue to live in fear of something that we know is a possibility, right? So it's all about what do we do, which brings us to actionable items. We need to connect people from within the dementia community through environments that can temporarily withstand the course of the disease, such as music, various visual art forms, sensory experiences. There are currently a lot of really great initiatives within our wonderful city of Edinburgh that are really looking to hone in on these sorts of experiences. We also need to facilitate events that engage these individuals with familiar objects, places, something of the sort that serves as potential catalysts for connection, something that ties them to what they remember, what they have the ability to still remember. And we need to adopt a person-centered approach to care, compassion, and community engagement. And this particular social approach to understanding dementia is really aiming to encourage society, the wider society, to think about how people can live well within our communities as part of their community that they've always been a part of, all the while altering the greater stigma associated with dementia, where people with dementia are living with the disease instead of dying from the disease. That's something that we really, really need to change the perspective of. We need to promote empowerment and encourage leadership. And we need to be activists, augment societal perceptions of dementia so that we can affect change and influence the policies. So I'm assuming you're probably wondering, well, how do we do that? Well, this here is, it was resultant of some of the research we had done for our literature review. And this was a co-created, a collaborative definition of empowerment. So as you can see there, a confidence building process whereby people with dementia are respected, have a voice, and are heard, are involved in making decisions about their lives, and have the opportunity to create change through access to appropriate resources. So this comes back to one of our research topics where we were looking specifically at co-creation and collaboration. And what a beautiful, poignant thing to come from a co-creative exercise on defining empowerment. So there you have it. That is our goal. This bit then brings us to the senses framework, which was created by Nolan and his clan of academic pals. The link is just at the bottom there for anybody that cares to read more on the senses framework. But using this particular framework, this particular understanding of relationship-centered care, it suggests that exceptional care can only be achieved when all of the senses, so that's security, continuity, belonging, purpose, achievement, and significance, are experienced by each member of the triadic relationship that's outlined in the center. And this encourages a more comprehensive vision of dementia care and research. So this particular approach also has the potential to address the economic, environmental, and political relationship between dementia diagnosis and quality of life, as it captures the importance of the interaction among people as the foundation of any therapeutic or healing activity. So bearing this in mind, our team thought Nolan could be onto something and that this could potentially be applied to and help the arts and culture sector here within the UK. But table that, we're going to come back to that in just a moment. So what did we find? We've got barriers and facilitators to participation. Within our thematic analysis, under the first theme, we found that there is a need, a great need for greater dementia accessibility awareness and policy promotion, and organizations within the sector require more resources, a lot more resources. And this includes funding, staffing, education, and training. Under our second theme, event planning and execution, it was a general consensus that it is much easier and much more beneficial, so easier and beneficial to co-create dementia-friendly events with the dementia community, more so than it is to try and adapt an existing event to fit parameters, very square peg, round hole dichotomy. And with the latter, people may be too stuck, i.e. the event organizers themselves, may be too stuck in their ways that they have always created events or how this event has run historically, that they don't want to change. But secondly, the seasonality and the scheduled programming and time constraints within organizations. This also plays a major role in organizations' ability to expand programming to include collaborative dementia endeavors. The third we came across under the final theme, these categories included a grassroots approach and a requirement for inclusivity. So community engagement is absolutely paramount to the creation of successful, collaborative, dementia-friendly events. People need to know their demographic and what their demographic wants, what they need, what they desire. Because what people want here in Edinburgh, it's not going to be the same thing that people want back home for me in Ottawa, because it's not the same demographic of people. Get to know your clientele, so to speak. And then ask around, what are other cultural pillars within the community doing? Are they successful in what they're doing? How are they doing it? It's not necessary to reinvent the wheel with dementia accessibility and collaborative events if others in the community are already doing it. It all comes back to collaboration. So, as a result, we have created this theoretical framework. So this is the Census Framework Revisited. Remember when we tabled Nolan's Census Framework? We're back with this. By adapting his framework to reflect our findings and data analysis, this particular model depicts how arts organizations can produce dementia events through that relationship-centered approach, through that collaboration with field experts and experts by experience. The absolute epicenter of the framework that you see there, this identifies the fundamental objectives that have to be met in order for this endeavor to be successful. We move out to the micro level, which reveals the 6 senses required for high quality relationship-centered care, which then creates the foundation for all organizational considerations. This part is absolutely paramount in rooting projects in a critical awareness and understanding of people with dementia's social position on empowerment. That really great definition that we spoke of earlier, that one. Then we move out to the meso level. The framework offers recommendations for physical touchpoint involvement at a community and or state level. So this includes dementia educators, people with dementia and their carers, strategic event creators, healthcare professionals, as well as local dementia events producers. Collaborative, community, all coming together. And then at the macro level, we see the 3 main themes that we just discussed from our main thematic analysis. So, in conclusion, the inclusion of these considerations within strategic event creation absolutely may aid event managers in transforming the socio-cultural understanding of inclusivity, empowerment, and quality of life as it pertains to people with dementia, their carers, their friends, their families, and on a larger scale, the implementation of this relationship-centered approach to strategic event creation may highlight the importance of social interaction as a therapeutic activity for people with dementia, and address the socioeconomic and sociopolitical effect of community engagement with people with dementia and their overall perceived quality of life. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Another round of applause sent through the universe to you. Thank you so much. Some sobering statistics there at the beginning, but it was really great to hear about the options for community-centered, empowering approaches that could really improve quality of life. And so leading on for that, I'm delighted we're now going to be talking to Tommy Whitelaw, who is the National Lead for Carers and Outreach with Alliance Scotland, who'll be talking a little bit more about his work and his perspective on the subject. So over to you, Tommy.
Thank you for the kind introduction. I'll just bring my slides up just now. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to participate today. It'll be a really quick overview of some of the work that we're doing, and a lot of this work has been fed into colleagues at Napier University. So I'm the National Lead at Carer Voices at the Health and the Social Care Alliance. I just want to go to the starting point. Previously to this, I was a full-time carer for my beautiful mum, Joan, and I cared for my mum at home until my mum sadly passed away. And that resulted in her becoming separated and isolated from the kind of lives we used to know. And one of the first things I started doing was to write a little blog at night when my mum went to bed. I'd write about things that made us smile or cry or say if it's scared, and ask people to share their stories with me. That resulted in thousands of people around the world, from Scotland, England, Ireland, Africa, Australia, America, sharing their experiences with us. And every single letter we have received today has always been about love. It's about the day two people meet and set eyes upon each other for the first time and think, I'm going to love you for the rest of my life. It's a love for a husband, a wife, a son, a daughter, a grandson, a granddaughter. All those remarkable relationships that each one of you brought with you to this talk today. But love was outmatched and outnumbered in most of the letters with the words loneliness and isolation. Beautiful letters when we had understanding, and difficult letters when there was a lack of understanding. Then resulted in our next piece of work, You Can Make a Difference. Because the thing that stood out about these stories is it's people that change lives. It's people that make a difference. Over and above policies and strategies, it's people. And no matter what your role is, no matter what you do in our communities, you have the potential to transform people's lives and experiences. But turning these good intentions into purposeful actions, I think everybody on this webinar, we wake up with good intentions. Turning good intentions into actions can feel really difficult. So up until in today's talk, we have hosted 1,000 talks to 220,000 people over the last 5 years, and launched 30,000 What Matters to You trees and pledges collectively or individually. And along with changing the environments and finding out with these deep conversations, we've published a kind of initial analysis of these pledges of the first 6,500, and I know I'll be working with Napier University colleagues to look at the 30,000 pledge cards we've collected in total, about asking people, what might you do to make a difference? What would support you to make that difference? And what might the barriers may be? So we have this quick analysis of the pledges of over 6,270 of them. At the moment, we've identified the most common changes that people would like to make, the most common barriers that people feel, the difference between nursing and nurses and student nurses, and also the difference between Scotland and England. But this has been received from all across the world. We've supported some case studies by change environments. In fact, in April, we had our Concert for Caring at the Glasgow Royal Concert Hall, where we had 1,550 people from across Scotland attended a concert. And we host that every 2 or 3 years. This is our second one, where we brought people we've engaged with together to celebrate people and relationships. I've sent a page in more detail with some of the things that I've been chatting about. But everything we do is based in this conversation. This is our 5 must-do with me steps for any work we do with people, not just people living with dementia, for all of us. What matters to you and who matters to you? What kind of information do you need? Nothing about me without me. And keeping these at the heart of all our engagement and relationships, we create flexible services that are meaningful to each unique individual. And it's about changing our thought process away from what's the matter with you to what matters to you. From flipping that thought process from what's the matter with you to who matters to you. Underpinned by 3 key principles. Let's take the time to ask people what really matters to them. Let's take the time to really listen to what matters to people. And once we've asked and once we've listened, we then have an opportunity to do. And it's all underpinned by the principles of intelligent kindness, how we reform the culture of healthcare, community care and engagement. And we have to flip our engagement away from listening with an intent to reply to always our first intention should be to listen. And often we can struggle with that because we want to tell people stuff we know and we can reply too quickly. So intelligent kindness tells us that when we're attentive, when we take time to listen, we become attuned to the needs of another human being. And when we do that with kindness, when we listen with kindness, something magical happens. We build trust, we generate therapeutic alliances, and we have better outcomes. So my final message in my 5 minutes is, please be kind to you, please be kind to others, and take the time to flip your conversations away from what's the matter with you to what matters to you. And every time you do that, you'll be doing something amazing. You'll be playing your part in another human being's love story. And that's the opportunities that we have. Thank you very much.
Oh, Tommy, that was cracking, but you need to put like a warning if I'm going to cry at any point during these speeches. And thanks again for sharing your personal perspective on it. I think that's really come through with all the speakers so far, is the sort of that it is personal, there are people, and about placing listening at the centre of any action. So thanks, Tommy, that was brilliant. We're now going to head over to Ruthanne Baxter, who is a Museum Services Manager with the University of Edinburgh, who's going to be talking a little bit about her work and how that can kind of come into this discussion as well. So for one final time, please send your applause through the universe to Ruthanne Baxter.
Good afternoon, everybody. I don't have anything to share with you on the screen, so I'm afraid I've just got my ugly mug to look at for about 5 minutes. But what I'm going to talk about is a sort of a moving, rolling project, if you like. So from 2013, the National Galleries of Scotland initiated a project called Dementia Socials, and they sought a few partners in the city of Edinburgh to help with that. And the idea was that each month, there'd be 4 partners, and they would deliver a monthly session specifically for the dementia community in their museums or galleries. And then that would mean that the dementia community would have something to go to every Friday morning. So the initial partners were the National Museums, the National Libraries, the National Galleries themselves, and the Botanic Gardens. And then after a few years, the Botanics were doing lots of other things, and they sort of stepped back, and at that point I had taken over at the University Museum, so we got St Cecilia's Hall involved from 2017, and the project has continued. And it's been going really well. Anecdotally, the information is that the participants really enjoy it, carers and the people living with dementia themselves. And generally the format is that you arrive, you'll have a tour of a gallery or an aspect of the collections. Then there's the very essential tea, coffee and cake, and lots of that social connection, which is very much required. And then it would finish up with like a half-hour talk, or at St. Cecilia's, it's very often a performance. And one of the things we did at St. Cecilia in its past, it has actually been a dance hall. So we had a lovely session where one of the events was a 1940s tea dance. And that brought back lots of wonderful memories for the participants. And one lady very, very beautifully said, I felt like I had my husband back for an hour. So this is the impact these events have that are going on across the city. But then we hit COVID, and sadly, the dementia social did not translate very well to digital. And at the beginning of COVID, a lot of people were looking to digital to be the solution. So the partners did continue to develop the events to make them available online, but the uptake was not very strong. So we all got together and we brought on board also the Botanics are also running wonderful dementia events. The Festival Theatre has been running wonderful dementia-friendly programs for a few years. So in a way, the COVID impact has given some of the city's heritage and cultural partners an opportunity to really get together, put our heads together, think about how we can improve what we are offering and how we offer that to the dementia community in the city. So that then brought in Napier University, who are doing their wonderful piece of research. And what we're looking at now is a project called Unlock and Revive, and is essentially trying to bring together as best we can the offer that is available from cultural and heritage providers in the city to the dementia community. And we want to create essentially an Edinburgh hub, a one-stop shop for the people who are the social prescribing link workers, care home managers, social workers, and individuals who are caring at home, and have them have one place where they can go to and get pretty much as rounded a possible understanding of the choice and offer that is there from the city's culture and heritage providers for that particular community. So that's where we are just now. I will make an appeal if you are aware of things going on in the city that can you please let us know if it's cultural or heritage related. That would be fantastic. And we are working with EH Scotland in this partnership as well. So again, if you represent something like EH Scotland and you want to help us shape this, please do get in touch.
Thank you very much, Ruthanne. I should say at the end as well, there will be some link shares. So if you do want to get in touch and follow up on any of these things, you can do. You can, as mentioned, also tweet at Napier Events and they can send you over to the right direction. So for this next section, we are going to go into a discussion. So don't panic, you are all going to be made panelists, but we're not expecting you all to give a 5-minute speech about your research. It's okay.